Ah, I see. So you've come at last to hear of the past, to learn of your greatest foe. Very well. We know all things. Now, lend me your ear. There is no beginning. There is no end. There is only what is, that which may be, has been, or shall forever and never be. Out of true darkness the formless formed. Bubbles came, as did the flow and space with it. Light was expelled from the void. Light came forth, and with it darkness. The elements witnessed by chasm came to be, bonded by the frontier, the cosmos's end. Life was the last creation that formed from something. By nothing. Death had not yet taken until time was applied. Time gave the lesser evolved cognitive intelligence, logic, and reason. One universe of countless many had taken form. The first aware, known and named as Own, came to be capable of knowing oneself and all there is. Seeking further knowledge and understanding, Own left the birth home, traveling across chasm, observing light, darkness, the elements, life and death. Experiencing a feeling of loneliness, it longed to connect with others. Own became formless, incorporeal, mum, nameless and unseen, absorbing the worlds, encompassing the cosmos's end, becoming chasm. The absence of life and death, eternal. At that time, Own counted, deciding to create
beings, yearning to quell the solitude, making gods, sharing knowledge of truths. The universe drew out its body, casting them into 4 pieces, and from that they were Killereth of the elements, Sadrun the light, Sekun the dark, Duus the endless. Sight, touch, and the feelings inside were the only things capable of feeling. Sadrun the light beckoned the coming rays of light, becoming light itself. Sekun the dark carved away the light to hide in shadows,
begetting light, becoming darkness itself. Killereth of the elements became mass and energy itself, attracting and repelling, keeping the universe intact. Duos stayed just being, becoming eternity itself. Duos was with Killereth, embraced until Killereth split Duos, becoming 2. Heat of life gave birth, becoming life itself. Kaisai of death brought death, becoming death itself. Cocoon chased Sadrun, playing a game of conquest and dominance, each wanting to have complete control of another. Yet Cocoon needed Sadrun to exist. Light could exist, but by only the energy created by Killereth does Sadrun exist. Killereth shaped planets, and from them stars were made. Light made home in stars, and from the shadows cast, Cocoon held more power. Without Killereth's diligence and proper management, the gods would rampage uncontrolled. However, Own has made sure that if Killereth doesn't do the duty to halt the cycle of the collapse, Own would intervene. Life gave birth, filling worlds with creations born to one day die by death. Death came from true darkness and took, making pain and fear arise.
Life knew of death's necessity, made witness to countless takings. It was in space that Killereth reminded Hedov that death was needed to keep balance. Hedov and Kaisei loved one another, yet they could not yield any offspring of their own. If Hedov tried to lay with Kaisei, they would kill their child. To help them, Killereth suppressed Kaisei's deathly touch. Kaisei was no longer death, but an absence of it to hold death together. Hedov fused with death, casting a seed into its absent womb. Laying they had a child, man. Man had manly parts, and only that, the first of its kind. Kaisei had no reason not to love and embrace new family. Killereth released the hold on death, keeping the cycle intact. The first immortal raced with Sekun and Sadrun. No matter how fast man ran, he could never catch up. His parents watched with attention because even though their son was immortal, he would have to run across the universe for an eternity to catch up to them. They both feared they would never see their child again. He jogged on planetary debris, then stopped to loll in a moon's gaze. The powers bestowed upon him were to give and take. He began to feel boredom form the great chase, and tire different things, and from those was to wondering what pain and fear was like. Man came to Killereth, shared the thought. Killereth granted permission to feel such things. Out of man's face shot holes, filling the birth home with air. Sound was then bare when man screamed in pain. Man dreaded Killereth that day, hating. Hearing his own voice, he was filled with excitement and intrigue. Using this new sense, he made sounds to describe things aside from gestures.
Man put things in his mouth and ate them. The dead filled his stomach, and from that a stench in the air flew through 2 holes from his face. Man puked up the dead, smelling foul and tasting rot. Life sprang forth from the empty lands. Hedov once again saw his son and was proud. Death saw man and was proud. In time the planet began to grow more life. The gods watched as a new brethren was formed. She climbed out of the world's core, soaked in lava and heat. Quite hot man sought after her. Love began to hold the two together, tying their feelings into a bond. It was only a glimpse that made this love. Just the sight of another made them feel something more. She was named Loaf the Molten. Man was granted permission not only to lay with Loaf, but to make her immortal as well. Killerith allowed this, granting Loaf immortality and her coming children immortality, holding heat at bay. Man laid with Loaf and had a son named Claude the Serpent. Claude, unlike his mother, was waterborne. During Claude's birth, his mother, Loaf, began to cry out in agony from immense discomfort. Claude shot out his mother's womb with an abundance of water. Thus the oceans and the seas came. Their second child was a fully grown child. Amazingly, during childbirth, Loaf suffered no pain at all, for their adolescent daughter was so slender she came out easily. They named their child Ner the Slim. Ner swam with Claude across the open seas. Loaf built mountains, and from the steam clouds floated in air. Man took witness to the life Hedov made, and the dead Kaisai took away. As more and more life became anew, man had an idea. Speaking with Killerith, man proposed that instead of having just things to live and die, that they too should be granted legacies. Speaking on to man, to do so would disrupt the balance. If life is given free rein to multiply, the world grows too heavy. Confronting the elements, man said, "Then at least give my parents helpers so they may come to be with us more." The elemental agreed to that. Then so too does death. And so the ground shook, and from it came disease, things that ate other things, and the intent to kill. Death ramped among the seas, oceans, forests, and brought life much faster to die. Although not directly stated why or how, man killed death and took the mantle, becoming death itself. Hell soon followed man. The land is being raped, the land and all its people. That which came and became and is. The man comes and goes. He takes the names of those who he kills. You could feel man's presence and sense death approach with him. For man had killed death and became a killer of death itself. The Kaisai of death man had become. Such pity had man for those he took into true darkness, and in doing so he decided to remember the names of the poor, the filthy, the deceitful, the hateful ones born from evil and good and raised as such. The pain never left and continued to haunt man forever, and all those who lived under him.